Terrific. It says we're live on YouTube. I also have the check mark on Facebook. So I'm just going to check. So I'm going to silence all my phones so we don't get buzzed in here. And then I'll check our Facebook and make sure that people are seeing us. If you're seeing us and hearing us, please give us a thumbs up. Give us that comment so I know you see and hear me fine. And then we can get our broadcast clicked off. Oh, perfect. Okay, so it looks like our board chair, Brian Dice, is here. He gave us a thumbs up, so it means he can see us, he can hear us, either that or he's ready for me to stop talking and for you guys to get going. So I'll get started by sharing. I am Juliette Abdel, President and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And today is a special presentation focused on transportation in wake of COVID-19. So as you all are aware, and if you've been on here before, we've held these videos. Gosh, it's been going on 2, maybe 3 months now, once things started unraveling to support our business community with ways that they can adapt and still do business in this climate. And now a lot of the content has been reshifted and focused on how do you reopen your business, guidelines that are out there. Even yesterday's broadcast, which focused on legislative issues. If you did not watch the broadcast from yesterday, please go back and watch the update from our contract lobbyist, Jeff Weist. That touched on the myriad of bills that are now being heard at the state capitol that do affect business. So make sure that you watch that broadcast, that you review the newsletter alert that we sent out yesterday so you're in tune with what's going on in the state capitol. But so all those videos are available for you. If this is your first time on our page, please be sure that it's not the last. And to do that, you actually have to like our page and follow us so you can get those alerts that we're live and you should tune in. All the videos are found in the video section. They're also found on our website, westminsterchamber.biz, COVID-19 update, where all of the updates and additional information for our business community is available. The link is displayed for you below. So last week, as you all are aware, we actually featured Commuting Solutions, and they talked a little bit about a program that they had developed related to telework, and the questions that really came up focused heavily on transportation. And so what we turned around and did was actually connect with some key partners in the community, RTD, our Regional Transportation District, and Dr. Cog, and I'll have Robert give the full acronym. Every time I try and do it, I always forget some element of it. But before I turn it over to you all, it looks like we're getting some awesome comments. Hearing me fine. Yes, thank you. We have a good morning message from Wayne. I know Wayne is always anxious to hear the information, so I'm sure he's going to have a question during your broadcast. And Tina Francone, she says, working my sound issues. Okay, so our experts that are on the line, if we're not speaking, make sure that you mute so we can try and help Tina and anyone else avoid any sound issues that might be going on. The mute option is in the bottom left corner of your individual broadcast. Looks like we also have a Counselor Scully that's with us. Thank you so much for hopping on. I know transportation is a big issue in your wheelhouse. And so I think this will be a very informative presentation for you as well. So thank you to everyone that's hopped on. Peter Brissett, hello to you, and Dominic Beltran. I'll try and give shout outs along the way. You guys know I like to give you those spotlights. So now that I've done with the housekeeping and it's taken 3 minutes, I fit it in less than 5. I am turning this over to Vince. Vince, I'm not going to try and say your last name because I was going to say Berzik, and I think that butchers it. But Vince is actually the RTD director for District J, and he has been in that role for nearly a year now, but has a myriad of experience in transportation and wealth of knowledge. So I'm excited to have him here with us to share from RTD's lens everything that they've kind of been a part of over the last several months, trends and things like that. And if you think of a question or comment as either of our guests are speaking, type those in the questions or comment section below. We will probably display that and get you an answer.
Thanks, Juliette, and thanks to Tina Francone for the invite as well. It's Vince Buzek, and I am the director for District J, which consists of Westminster, North Glen, Federal Heights, western portions of Thornton, and portions of unincorporated Adams County. Roughly 190,000 constituents in my district. I have been in office for about a year and a half now, elected in 2018, sworn in January 2019. A lot of changes have occurred since that time. COVID being the most impactful, most recent one. So you've given us a bunch of questions to kind of address, and I'll address these, I think, in the topics that I'm going to cover. I'll start with the COVID issue as well. So obviously, COVID has impacted RTD in a number of significant ways. First and foremost, it has impacted us in our ridership. And prior to COVID, RTD had approximately 350,000 boardings per day. After COVID, we have about 125,000 boardings per day. So ridership is down significantly. As a result, fare revenue is down significantly. Fare revenue probably consists only of about 20% of RTD's budget, and the rest comes from sales tax. So we are pretty sales tax dependent, and I think you all know where sales taxes have gone during COVID as well. They are down significantly as well. We just had a meeting on Tuesday night looking at a 5-year budget projection and based largely on COVID impacts over the next 5 years. If we do not increase revenue or decrease spending, we will be in the negative by about $1.2 billion at the end of 5 years. So pretty significant impacts that we now have to deal with. Let's talk about some of the more fundamental ones that impact people more on a daily basis. As you may know, RTD suspended fare collection, I think back in April. Everything's free, right? And as far as buses go, to the extent we have buses that can allow for rear boarding, we've required rear boarding to protect our operators from passengers coming right in and having to enter the bus that way. So that's been an interesting challenge in and of itself. When RTD transportation is free, everybody rides RTD, and some people that don't typically ride RTD ride RTD. And unfortunately, what we've experienced is we've had a huge increase in the amount of homeless individuals riding RTD and using it as shelter. Now, we're trying to help them as much as we can, and we're getting them to the proper social service agencies that can help them and not use RTD as their shelter. It's not good for them, and it's not good for the riding public generally anyway, because it overcrowds our buses. We're also trying to keep social distancing in place on our buses. So typical bus, you've got a 15 passenger maximum now on those big articulated buses, 20 passengers, no more. That's a challenge because you'll typically have on an articulated bus, 100 plus passengers on that bus, close to 100. So that has given us challenges on some of our more robust routes. So what we've done is we have added more buses to those routes in order to keep the social distancing going. So, for example, the number 15 bus that goes back and forth on Colfax, one of the most heavily used routes in the system, we have buses coming and going on that line constantly to keep the social distancing going. We're asking passengers to wear face masks or face coverings of some kind. That's a tough one. Some people do and some people don't. And we don't have enough security personnel to be on every one of our conveyances enforcing that. And we can't possibly ask our operators to enforce that. So it's been a tough one. And we hope that when you ride RTD, please wear a face mask. So we're also working on bringing back fare collection. So July 1st, RTD is going to begin collecting fares again. No more rear boarding, front door boarding, and you have to pay for RTD again. To protect our operators, we are on the buses, we are installing plexiglass or acrylic shields that will protect the operators. That's a time-consuming process. We've been at it now for some time, but we've got over 1,000 buses we need to add these shields to, so it's taking a bit of time, but that is happening. The big thing we're looking at now is what's the return to normal look like? When can we begin to get back to what normal was once upon a time? And that's going to depend largely on the coronavirus and how the medical side of the equation addresses that. We want people to not only feel safe, but to be safe on our buses and trains. So you can wear masks and gloves and all those things, but ultimately there's there's still some risk until we address the big issue of coronavirus and we get, treatments and vaccines that may address that. So getting people back on, making people feel more comfortable on riding, that's our big challenge, and that's what we're addressing now. A couple other things that are going on. I'll give you an update on the North Metro line. That is the train line, the commuter rail line out of Denver Union Station to 124th at East Lake. That cuts through portions of Thornton, Denver, North Glen. So there's a lot of impact to this North I-25 corridor with that. We've had a lot of problems. It's 2.5 years behind schedule, but we have ridden hard on our contractor this year. They are nearly done with construction. They've turned over the fixed guideway, the rail portion of it, to RTD. We've been in testing for a couple of months now. Testing is going very well. We've had good results. The Public Utilities Commission, who've asked to okay all of our railroad crossings, has signed off on 3 out of the 5 that we have, and the next 2 should be coming anytime now. We're looking at an opening, and although RT doesn't want to make things official because they've been bitten in the past by doing that, we're looking hopefully at September this year to open the North Metro line. Now, in the past, there used to be big celebrations and all kinds of things for the openings. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen because of COVID. We can't gather and celebrate, but hopefully people will be thrilled about using that. A couple other things. We're also in the process of searching for a general manager. As you may know, our former general manager retired at the end of last year. We now have an interim general manager by the name of Paul Ballard in place. And we have a general manager executive search committee, a subset of our board, that is working on that. The application process will close mid-July, and we'll begin the process of winnowing out down the resumes and applications, getting to a point where we have a final group, and hopefully at some point before the end of this year, getting a new general manager in place that will guide us through the remainder of our COVID recovery and bringing RTD back into place. I think I've spoken fast and I've covered most of the things. If there's anybody that has questions now, or if you want to wait till the end, that's fine as well. I can cover some more topics, Juliet, if you want me to.
Oh, I think that was terrific. You shared some things that are so important for the public to understand. And I think the best breakdown that you gave, which you gave several, and I tried to capture as many of those facts and figures into our comment section for anyone that's hopped on to be able to go back and see what our RTD director, Vince, has kind of been discussing in wake of COVID, how RTD has transitioned, how they've been affected with ridership all the way to revenue. And I think probably the most drastic that people don't likely know about or kind of put 2 and 2 together is that, especially when the fare revenue is reduced or stalled in this instance, and it's 20% of the revenue for RTD, the remaining amount comes from our sales tax. So when our economy is in downhill, which is as evident as it is right now, you guys are hit from both sides. It's not just one way that a stream has kind of been stopped and that you can rely on another. I mean, both of those have kind of had that big impact on you. And so whenever you did reference the potential of a 1.2 billion in 5 years negative, if that doesn't change around, that's a drastic number. We do have a question already, and I want to pull this, and then I know I had said we'll do it at the end, but I think we're going to go ahead and do this just in case we get some more that start kind of blocking things up. First off, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Councillor Bowles. Thank you for hopping on here with us, and Vanessa DeMont as well. Vanessa, looks like you have a question. I'll go ahead and pull this up right here. Vanessa lives in Jeffco. She's actually got her eyes on the state seat right now, so she's also been heavily involved in trying to get as much information. She's asking, do you have a projected ridership considering COVID? Colorado came in near top of the nation for auto sales over the last few months. Does that suggest residents might be turning back to private transportation? So it seems like there's a few questions in one. As far as projected ridership, I know that Vince did give some numbers as opposed to the daily rate, which would have been, I think you had said 300 and something thousand. Now it's been declined to about 100,000. So the ridership has already decreased. So I guess the projected maybe to go back up during the rephase, if you guys are aware of that. And then as far as that there might be a surge in private transportation, how would that affect some of what you all have been trying to do to offset those revenue declines?
Great, and thanks, Vanessa, to you for that question, and hello to David as well. Yeah, so the ridership numbers that are current, right? So 350,000 boardings per day down to 125,000 boardings per day. Guessing where that goes in the future is problematic, and but we have to do that to make our budgets and do our budget projections. We are anticipating that by 2025 we will be back to our levels experienced in 2019. So that's kind of what we're looking at now, and it may be, I'm hoping that's really conservative, but those are the numbers we're looking at now to getting back to what it used to be. As far as the auto stuff goes, I really don't know. It could be because car dealers and manufacturers are just about giving cars away for free now, and have incredible offers for financing and deferral of several months of payments. So that may be why people are doing it as well. It's hard for me to say, but thanks for the question.
Absolutely. I think that's there's a combination of factors, and you hit the nail with that. So at this point, we'll go ahead and transition over to our next speaker. We have Robert Spotts. Robert is with DRCOG. He will also be giving an overview of what their organization has kind of seen, how they've been affected, and some other factors we should be considering. If you're just hopping on, please know that we had Vince from RTD. He's the director for District J, share a lot from the RTD lens and how they've been impacted by COVID, future predictions, and statistics and numbers that we've included in this broadcast. If you have questions or comments for either of our experts, please type them into the questions or comment section so we can get to that. I'll transition now over to you, Robert, and I'll go ahead and mute myself.
Good morning, and thanks for the opportunity to have me speak. I am Robert Spotts, the Mobility Analytics Program Manager at DRCOG. So my group deals with collecting data from today, and then also forecasting transportation trends out into the future as far as 2040, and we're currently working on our 2050 long-range plan. DRCOG represents about 58 jurisdictions in the region. That's counties and municipalities, and our board consists of elected officials. Your esteemed Mayor Herb Atchison sits on our board, a very active member. So there's about 3 million people in our region, all the way from Boulder and Weld County to the north, and Douglas County and Jefferson County in the south. We are a rapidly growing region. We are planning on adding about 1 million more people by 2050. That's taking the entire Oklahoma metropolitan area and fitting it into our region. So we're planning on a lot of growth issues associated with that, transportation being one of those issues. So we largely deal with distributing federal funds to local transportation projects, as well as doing long-range planning. So what will transportation look like out into the future, 2040, and as I said, 2050 and beyond. As far as the COVID crisis has gone, my group has been very interested in the changes in travel behavior and what that means for our infrastructure. Unfortunately, we're a little early. It takes a long time for us to process accurate and quality checked traffic data. So we're working with what we've got, and I will mention that. But right now we're basically, we just finished processing traffic counts for the region for the 2019 year. So this is we're not dealing with a complete verified set of data, but I can say there's some what we call big data sources. That's kind of like Google tracking your phone, or when people track your movements, and it gets integrated into a system called Streetlight Data or Waze, and they can kind of take those early estimates and make some type of guess about what traffic levels are doing during this crisis. And we don't put a lot of faith into those. Some of those have said that compared to how especially March and early April were the previous year, traffic volumes around the region were down about 60 or 70%. So that much less travel. And obviously those are for some very negative reasons. However, in terms of some of the metrics we care about, such as the pollution coming from those vehicles and congestion, obviously those metrics were down significantly during this period. We've gotten some initial data from the Colorado Department of Transportation. Those are traffic count recorders that gather counts every single day. They just sit there, and there's not very many of them throughout the region. A lot of them are on the periphery, but those are suggesting the traffic was reduced by more like 40%, 30 to 50%. So maybe not as big, but we, the long story short, we're not exactly sure of the scale of reduction on traffic counts, but it is significant. Somewhere in the range of 30 to 70%. That's unheard of for our region. Typically, with our population growth, we are constantly increasing VMT in this region. So we're very interested to see how that trend continues. As I said, we're not pleased with the reason this is happening, but we have a lot of metrics and things we care about, reducing congestion and improving air quality. This is helping those metrics. So there's a lot of things we're digging into. For example, with all the teleworking that's happened, will peak periods be the same? So those are the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour. Those are the times that pose the most strain on our transportation network. So has behavior changed, and will it continue to change? Where even as we start to go back to opening up a little bit more than we were, and traffic is increasing a bit, is it still that 8 to 5 peak period happening, or enough people working from home, even though they may be traveling through the day, that there's more of a consistent level of traffic throughout the day and less of that peaking that really puts that strain on our system? As far as air quality goes, it's a little early. Ozone's our most critical and the emissions, the pollutant we have the most trouble with in this region. It's a summertime pollutant, so we're just getting into the summertime when ozone is created. So it's a little early to tell how much that's going to affect ozone. Early indications are that ozone is down compared to the previous years, but it's a bit sporadic, and it changes year over year based on weather patterns. So it's a little early. There's estimates, greenhouse gases from transportation could be down as much as that 40-50%. But there's also indications that because of increased energy use at home, with people being home while the offices are still being powered, that there's actually more greenhouse gas emissions from other sources, from power generation, possibly from more, while passenger vehicles may be down, there's the potential that there's a lot more delivery trucks out there. So I know I don't have much time here, but Dr. Cog, keenly interested in the travel changes and behaviors. We, in early March, performed a survey of teleworkers. We reached out to as many businesses as we could. It was a very thorough survey. We found that in early March, or late March, excuse me, 2019 compared to 2020, in March 2019, about 6% of the respondents were working from home, and in 2020, it was about 86%. So a massive change of people driving alone, carpooling, or even taking transit switched to teleworking. Obvious, and we found out that while there was challenges, keep staying connected with their coworkers, overall, they were very satisfied with the work they were doing and were happy with their productivity. They felt like their productivity was similar or increased. So one of the things we are working on is we have a program called Way to Go. It's a travel demand management program. We help people find alternate modes of transportation to work and teleworking. And there's a new initiative they're developing called Telework Tomorrow. So it's looking to the future, turning something good out of this crisis. How can we continue to have these organizations support teleworking now that they've been kind of forced to get used to that and find out the level of productivity? So Way to Go is a program they're offering support for future teleworking, and how can we sustain that and continue to keep these single occupancy vehicles off the road moving into the future. So I think I'll stop there and look for any questions.
Well, thank you, Robert. And for those of you that were interested in more of the deep dive on the telework program, we did have Commuting Solutions last week. Visit with us in extensive detail. You can find that video in the videos archive section of our Facebook page and learn more about that specific program. We do have a couple of questions, Robert, and I'll go ahead and have Vince, if you think that there is something that you can add as well, please be sure to chime in. So this question comes to us from Tina. Tina's asking, what trends are we all seeing across the nation as it affects public transportation? Yes, so what are the trends you're seeing across the nation that affect public transportation okay, so public and private transportation. So she's asking what trends you may be seeing across the nation. So not just here in our specific county or region, across the state, and then looking at the nation, maybe some numbers that you've seen, some things that are some similar districts that you can that you reference that are that may be found across the U.S. And I'll have Robert, I'll have you start with this, and then Vince, if there's anything in specific you can also add, I think that would be relevant.
I might kick it over to Vince for public transportation. Yeah. I haven't been following that.
That's okay. So post-COVID, the trends are pretty universal. Everyone has reduced service. Some people have eliminated service. And now the focus is going to be how you get people back. How do you make people comfortable getting on a bus and a train? And that's the big thing that we have going on. Pre-COVID, public transit use has fluctuated depending on where you are. So some agencies see increases in ridership, some see decreases. RTD, last year the big thing was our light rail had seen a big decrease in ridership. But it's kind of cyclical. And one of the things that I have been trying to work on since I got on the board is to make it easy. Because if you make it easy and understandable, more people may tend to use it. So that's a big deal here. But that's it on the public transportation side. And Robert, you can go ahead with the private sector.
Yeah, obviously, different experiences have some variation in terms of their experiences, but I think these are pretty much the trends, depending on when the cities and states locked down and started back up, or how deeply they were affected by the crisis. But pretty consistent, major decreases in the amount of vehicle travel and transit ridership.
Thank you. This next question is specific to DRCOG. So has there been any federal funding reductions to DRCOG? If so, what is that impact?
There has not been any federal funding reductions yet to DRCOG in terms of what we're planning on in terms of our long-range plan or the highway funds that we distribute to the region. So no decrease as of yet.
And can you speak to, for the audience that may be a little bit novice, can you speak to how you all are structured? I know you mentioned that you cover 58 jurisdictions, which include counties and cities. So when we hear of funding reduction from federal, so there's dollars from federal that comes to you, can you touch a little bit? I loved how Vince gave the percentage breakdown that they had as far as how their revenue is compromised.
Yeah, so we basically DRCOG receives federal transportation dollars, and we every 4 years we have what we call a transportation improvement program. That's the program in which we determine how to spread that money and which projects should be funded throughout the region. We just went through that last year, and the federal highway trust dollars for that program have not been affected as of yet. So our board of directors, 58 elected officials from every jurisdiction and county in the region, make those decisions, and they vote. Every jurisdiction gets one vote at the table, and they work together to determine how to distribute those funds.
Excellent, thank you. So this next question comes to us from Councillor Bowles. So thank you for being here this morning. He is asking specifically about a bus route, and this is the Wagner Road and 144th Avenue Flex Ride bus route. Is that still as successful as it has been prior to COVID? This has been one of the areas of public transportation success stories here in our community and surrounding area.
I guess that's my question. So yeah, Wagon Road has always been a popular spot, one of the busiest park and rides in the system. And yeah, oh hi John, good to see you too, or hear you, or know you're there. Anyway, it is still, relatively speaking, as busy as it is, although reduced dramatically as every other park and ride is. So in the scheme of things, yeah, it's still busy, but never close to what it was. And hopefully we're going to get back there. In fact, in July, we're going to have a meet and greet out there. I'll be there at 6:30 in the morning and saying hi to people. So yeah, it's still a success story, sort of. COVID success story, I guess. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yes, please share information about the meet and greet so we can either
I will.
drive by
I'll get that to you.
or be around. And then maybe we can put our heads together and think of how do we do a celebration out in September for that hopeful opening of that specific project.
Good question. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. So before I let you go, Vince, can you share a little bit? I know you touched on consumer confidence is low, and that's something that we need to have come back. And we see that even in our retailers, we're trying to encourage people to come back and also come back, keeping in mind their health and safety and the guidelines that are out there, but really supporting and utilizing some of the services that are available to us. You mentioned that there is a number that's been placed on our buses as opposed to 100 that you would generally have on the bus. Have you seen that number increase as we're going through this refacement, or is it pretty consistent on that specific amount?
Yeah, that's the number. That's the number we want to keep things at for now until we get other guidance from the medical experts. And so 30 on the big articulated buses. I'm sorry, 20 on the big articulated buses, 15 on the regular buses, 30 on rail cars, and we want to keep that as here's the challenge. As ridership increases, we're going to continue to add buses to the lines that are seeing the heaviest use. But at some point, we're going to run out of either buses or operators. So we're going to have to work on what that challenge is.
And at one point, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of touched on this a couple of broadcasts ago with the mayor. There was a suspension on the service to Denver, and I think it was in wake of everything that was going on from a national situation. And then, we had some gatherings that were down in the Denver area. That's changed, and now all the routes have resumed. Is that right?
That's correct. We're back in service. Yeah, things have quieted down a bit, and we're just ready in the event that we think there might be a risk to our operators or our passengers. We may need to do that again, but so far we're back to normal.
Yes, thank you. And I love the level of safety you're trying to keep in mind for your operators and for anyone that is using the bus ride service. I have kept you all over. Believe it or not, our 30 minutes went by as fast as, the blink of an eye. For those of you that have tuned in with us since the beginning, if you thought of a question or comment that you didn't get a chance to ask, please be sure that you comment it. We will always email our experts, get a response, and be able to get you that answer. If you're more comfortable DMing us about a specific situation, which we've had a lot of people do, feel comfortable to do that. We won't release your contact unless you ask us to, but we'll take your concern and we'll try and get that resolved for you as well. If you end up watching this video on replay, let us know by giving that hashtag replay so we know which content's resonating with everyone as well. It's Friday, believe it or not. The days, I kid you not, are going by as fast as can be. So we will be back here at 11 a.m. on Monday with our mayor, Mayor Herb Atchison. In the meantime, know that our Shop Local campaign has been live, so make sure that you're shopping, dining, doing business locally for a chance at numerous prizes throughout the week. That are valued up to close to $400. Our mini grants have opened with our county partners as well. So if you're a Westminster business and you are needing support, whether it's compliance related business operations or just as far as it relates to your technology upgrades and things like that, that application is already open and available, and we are getting applications on an hourly basis. So please feel comfortable in applying if you are a Westminster business. And then lastly, you know that I always like to recap. We had today with us RTD Director, District J, Vince. And then we also had Dr. Cog's program extensive title, Manager, Robert Spots. If you need to find them, can I ask you guys for your best contact information?
You bet. You can always get me by email. It's Vince, VINCE .Buzek, BUZEK @RTD-Denver.com, or just go to the RTD website and there's a link that'll get to me as well.
Thank you, Vince, and thank you so much for correcting me. I can't believe it's been a year and a half since you've been.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just the other day that you and I were kind of mingling, and trying to get the word out. So that's terrific. And then, Robert, how would folks know how to reach you?
Yeah, my email address is rspots, RSPOTTS, @drcog.org. Happy to answer any questions.
And then before I let you go, you mentioned Oklahoma. I don't know why. Do you have ties to that?
No, we use that as there's a million people there, and that's how many people we're adding to Denver. Sometimes we use Buffalo too. It's a lot of people moving to this region.
I moved from Oklahoma here, so as soon as I heard that, I was like, "Oh, did he stalk me and find that fact out, or what was the reason behind that?" So to reach Robert, I've also put in his contact. That's our spots at drcog.com, and you can find
.org. It's actually .org.
.org. So I'll fix that .org. And you can find both of their information as well, or how to learn more about both of their organizations online. Yesterday, we had a broadcast legislative updates. Legislature is still in session. I know they're trying to convene over the next several days. Please make sure you watch that broadcast and stay alert on what bills are out there and how they might affect our business community. Have a wonderful Friday. I know it's going to be hard for you to match up the level of energy in this broadcast. But I hope you do have a terrific afternoon and weekend, and we'll be in touch soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, Juliet. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.